What is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and today we are back in Forza Horizon 2 taking a look at the new Porsche 911 Turbo S from the Porsche expansion pack in Forza Horizon 2. Now, before we get into anything else with this test, let me just go ahead and show you guys the launch, because it launches pretty much more ferociously than anything I've ever driven. The only cars that come close to that are the GTR, the 918, and the Veyron, and that's pretty much it. This thing is definitely, I mean, while it may be classified as far as general classification goes, as a supercar, the launch is up there in hypercar territory. It really, really is. It's so quick off the line that you're going to be beating, I would say, pretty much like 98% of the cars in Forza Horizon 2, from at least, I don't know about 0 to 60, but definitely like 0 to 30 or 40. This thing definitely has them covered, definitely to about 40. First gear tacks out at about, I want to say, around about 44 miles an hour, so you do have to shift before you hit 60, and depending on how good you are at shifting, that's going to affect your time quite a bit. It's either going to affect it very little or quite a bit, again, depending on how good you are at shifting. Now, the interesting thing about it, though, is the fact that while it can launch really with the best of them in Forza, it's actually one of the best handling cars I've tested yet, especially for being an all-wheel drive car. And it's funny because the 918 was very similar to this car. This has very similar performance to the 918. The power comes on a little bit differently, and obviously it's not as fast in a straight line, but the performance feel is actually very similar. The sound is a bit different, but in terms of the way the car actually feels, there are a lot of similarities in feel between this and the 918, especially in the handling department with the four-wheel drive system. This thing does a really, really good job of pulling the front end of the car around, very similar to the 918 in that respect, but with this, it actually dives into corners a little bit better, actually. It gives you a little bit more, oh wow, I thought that was paved. Never mind, I'm just going to spin around and keep going this way. But, it's kind of odd because the 918 isn't as quick to dart into a corner, but it's a little bit better accelerating out of corners. This car is very quick to dart into a corner, and it's good mid-corner on power, but the problem is, whereas the 918 will rotate really nicely and start to just grip its way out of the corner with a tiny little bit of rotation, this will push with a little bit more mid-corner understeer than the 918 will. Now, that could be due to the 918's power increase. That could be due to how... Whoa, that was a terrible approach. But it could also be due to the fact that the 918 is down on weight a little bit from this car, or at least I believe. I could have that fact wrong, which I really hope I don't, because that would look terrible. But one of the biggest things, though, for me with this car is the fact that, again, in a similar regard to the 918, you can kick the back end out, but you have to... It's funny because whereas the 918 wants to drift, this thing, it kind of doesn't. This thing, you kind of have to, it's like you tell it to drift and it's like, oh, you want me to do this? Yeah, that's not what I'm supposed to do. I mean, it'll slide, sure, but you just have to be really aggressive with it, and you have to be like, oh, hey, we're gonna actually go into drift mode now. We're not gonna, we're not gonna grip. And it's like, oh, man, I'm supposed to be gripping. I'm supposed to be getting as much grip as I possibly can around these corners. That's why I'm all-wheel drive. That's why I have this near-perfect power split. That's why, that's why my engine is in the back. The whole, your classic Porsche stereotype, but still, whereas the RS 4-liter and the 918, even though the RS 4-liter is rear drive, the 918 is all-wheel drive, and this is all-wheel drive as well, it's not quite as willing to slide as the 918 is. And I feel like that kind of goes along with their character just a little bit. Oh, here's a little bit of a jump. I mean, kind of completely ignored the fact that there was a roundabout there and just kind of went through it. But let's do some interior view driving. Now, the interior view is very similar to a lot of the other Porsche 911s. Obviously, if you've ever driven a Porsche 911 in Forza, you know what to expect. They evolve over time. They're not revolutionary, they're evolutionary. I mean, that's at least what I like to say about Porsche 911s. They always have this evolutionary quality to them, but they never, I guess you could say, revolutionize the style, but they're always evolving it, and I think that that's a good model for them as far as the looks of these cars go, because you're never going to totally reinvent the look of a Porsche 911. You're just not going to. And if you look at the very first Porsche 911 up to what they have now, you can obviously still see the similarities. Now, other cars have been dramatically changed over the years. The Corvette, for example, has gone through a lot of revisions, and while the Corvette's design has, you could say it's evolved over time, it's definitely been a lot more, they've been a lot more daring with the style of the Corvette, say, for example, than they have with the style of the 911, just for basically reasons of trying to keep a style and trying to keep a heritage, at least in my book. But let's see what kind of speed we can get out of it on this little straightaway. Not too bad. I feel like this thing, I mean, obviously that wasn't a full-out top speed test, and we're gonna back that up because that was not gonna go well at all. Oh, God! Not too bad. Bypassed a roundabout, but well, we're good. We're good with that. We can live with that. And also, too, the interesting thing is, this car is a lot more willing to accelerate than it is to, I guess you could say, accelerate in the low end than it is as far as, you doing this high-speed stuff. And it's funny because you can tell that this car was really made to be an acceleration monster. It was made to have a ton of off-the-line pull, but it starts to lose a little bit of that once you get really high up into the power band. Now, I don't know if that's just because of the way they have this car set up, or because of other characteristics with the setup of the car, but let's not hit the wall, please. Thank you. But the thing is, you'll notice if we do like a second gear roll-on, and go, it gains speed really quickly. And once you get up to the to a lot of the higher ranges of speed with this car, you start to notice that the pull isn't quite as ferocious. It's not quite as crazy. But in the rain, this thing is a beast in the rain. It's got a ton of grip with that all-wheel drive system. It does really well. And the rain almost doesn't phase it at all. It's kind of funny because a lot of supercars, it's like, oh no, the rain is, oh no, it's raining. We're not going to be able to put down any lap times at all. Whereas this thing, well, it goes through telephone booths for one, or telephone booths, bus stops. It goes through bus stops quite well, but no, when the rain comes, this thing starts to get pretty much, it doesn't lose anything. It doesn't really lose any of its effectiveness. It doesn't lose any of its handling capabilities. I mean, you're gonna slide around just a little bit. I mean, obviously because it's raining, but other than that, when you're not using traffic cars for brakes, and hi, Camaro, let's get out of there while we can. But another interesting thing though, when you're not in the rain with this car and you're not, using that all-wheel drive system to battle some kind of weather or something along those lines, it actually works really well as just a generic all-wheel drive system in terms of kind of bringing the car back into line. Now, even if you wanted to, I said earlier that it wasn't too good at kicking the back end of the car out, and it's not. That's not what it's made for. Obviously, as you can see, because it's not very easy to recover it. But, and I'll try and get it right. If you do get it right, it can be really rewarding because it looks really good. It looks really good doing it. It looks really good getting the back end out. But the thing is, you always have that slight feeling that that's not what this thing was meant to do. This thing is an acceleration monster, and I definitely want to do a build on it. But I think the biggest thing about it is that it's going to be it's a beast in mid-range to high-speed corners, or actually I should say, mid-speed to high-speed corners, and a absolutely crazy acceleration monster. But when you start to get way up into the top end, it starts to not be quite as effective. But the looks of this car, though, it's that evolutionary, not revolutionary. These cars look absolutely gorgeous, especially the turbo variant. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave me a like. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought of it. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next one. Talk to you guys later.